Okay, so I'm on the phone right now with Dan Marian, who's the coordinator at the border. And Marian, hi. What is it that you do on the border?
We record the influx of refugees. We put them in a database, and we coordinate with the emergency services that have contracted transportation for them. The only transport we have, unfortunately, is for Bucharest. We put them on the list, and we help them get to Bucharest, to people that are waiting there, or simply just to the train station where they have free trains to other destinations, to Germany, to Italy, to any other country where they might be finding loved ones or family or friends or whoever can help them in this situation. And like I said, we only have transport to Bucharest, but we have a lot of people that are staying also in Tulcea, in dorms, college dorms that are being organized by the government, and they're being taken care of there. There's also involvement, quite a big involvement from religious groups, from churches that also have people overnight, maybe if we don't have transport available, which happens sometimes, unfortunately. They sleep overnight in churches, also in Isaccea, even in Brăila or Galați or Constanța sometimes.
And all these towns that are you mentioning, like Tulcea, Brăila, Galați, they're close to the border, like relatively,
more or less.
Right.
Let's say they're all within 2-hour drive, and there have been refugee camps, so to speak, or arrangements made by the local towns, the local administrations of Brăila, Galați, Constanța, and also like college dorms where people can sleep, can get permanent housing, or even, for example, in Tulcea, we have a nice camp. It's an actual summer camp that has opened their doors to Ukrainians, for example. It's very often used for people that have animals, because it's hard to keep an animal inside. Sometimes you can have 2 dogs, 3 cats with you, and of course you take them with you when you run from a war. And they're really useful because in these summer camps, basically, they can stay without any problem for long term, with the help of the government, of course, in what amount that is, and they can stay there for a long time.
It's really nice. So like, what is the walk of like the refugee? Let's say if they like, once they get off the ferry that's taking them, what's happening to them?
They get registered. They tell us what they need. They tell us where they want to go, or they tell us, I don't know what to do. And we either provide them with permanent housing or help them get to the city that's most suitable for their destination. Sometimes we've even used trains from Galați or Brăila to Bucharest, and then from Bucharest to another place when we didn't have any transport with the buses. The contractors couldn't provide a bus or couldn't provide a driver or something, and we didn't have transport. The emergency services were transporting the people to Brăila and Galați, and then the people would get on a train to Bucharest, for example. And after that, like I said, we either help them with permanent housing somewhere close, Tulcea, Galați, Brăila, and Constanța. There's a center in Constanța as well. Or we send them to Bucharest, to trains or planes where they find, they go on a new route to their friends or family in another country.
Whatever destination they choose to go to. Okay, so you've been there for what, 3 months now since the beginning?
2 months and 2 weeks, basically.
And do you feel like it changed? Like, do you feel any difference? And even in the influx of people, or what's happening? Volunteers?
The influx has died down. Unfortunately, the same thing with the volunteers. They're at the beginning when we had 700-800 people coming in, even more daily. We used to have maybe 30 to 40 volunteers every day. Unfortunately, now we're down to double digits, to maybe 10, 12 volunteers a day. But out of those volunteers, the ones that really matter are the translators and the speakers, just like you, the ones that know Ukrainian. Those are the pieces of all the information, because everything needs to be, information is the base, right? Of course. So we need to find out what they need so we can help them. Sometimes we can even have one translator all day long because nobody else is available or they just couldn't come. Everybody's a volunteer, nobody's being paid to be there. And yeah, it's died down, but the actual infrastructure has been somewhat perfected and is perfected day by day, going further. It was much more complicated. To make a comparison, I think it was harder to organize the 800 people a day with 40 volunteers than it is to handle, let's say, 200 people today with just 5 of them.
I see.
We've gotten used to the situation. We know the run around.
Everyone knows their place. There's like a hierarchy. Yeah. I mean, I've experienced some of that in the 2 months that I was there. I just went like, yeah. Okay, so what do you think besides volunteers? What are like the other resources that you could guys use at the border? If I can bring some.
Well, besides volunteers, yeah, we have a food court that offers food to everybody, but unfortunately that food court is also run by refugees and volunteers. We have refugees that have reached the Isaccea border place. They've received permanent housing, and now they're working basically as volunteers in the food court. But of course that can't be always there, just like the translators and the volunteers that help with transport, they can't be there all the time. And let's say the schedule is from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's 12 hours work, feeding, let's say, 100 to 200 people a day. In a team that's, let's say, 5 people or 4, or sometimes even 3 or 2, handling everything. So it would be an interesting idea. It's also, this goes hand in hand with the need of volunteers, of course. It would be a good idea to have something during the night as well, because the favorites come after 8 p.m. when the kitchen doesn't have any more volunteers there. They do leave a sizable amount of food packaged in small containers for people to take if they come after 8 p.m. But sometimes that goes away very fast. So
so some kind of to-go baggie or something like that overnight so that people can eat. And you mentioned the other day, I was talking to you, said like there was no water at some point, or bottled water. Like who supplies that usually? Just volunteers, right?
It used to be, but now the emergency services managed to get a contract, and they've supplied about 300 bags of water. So that's about maybe 2,500 bottles of water.
Okay,
so I think the water situation is handled for the moment. And of course, transportation. That's the biggest issue, because the government hasn't offered anything official for short distances. All the trips for Galați, Tulcea, Brăila, and Constanța are being handled 80% of the time by volunteers on their own cars and their own finances and on their own time. There is a lot of situations where if there's enough people and if it's an urgency, the emergency services as well, they have their own bus and
microbus,
bus. And let's say even today there was a case where we had a family of 11 people, all relatives. They needed to get to Galați, so they were transported by the emergency services. But it would be good to maybe have at least one sizable transport, because the volunteers usually use cars of 2-3 people,
Right.
maximum 4 if they're not with too much luggage after. But
Yeah.
everybody has a lot of luggage. 99% of them have come here with their entire lives behind them. And small cars can't accommodate more than, let's say, 3 people. And if it would be nice to maybe get something from the government, like at least a minivan or something that can accommodate more than 5 people, that can travel for small distances to
Right.
Brilo, Lazio, or Constanza. That would be a thing. So yeah, donations are always scarce. Of course, water, everybody needs water, everybody needs food. Volunteers are needed, of course, and transport. These would be the first 3. Of course, the most important things, and as usual, the most important things are the ones that are not found in big amounts. So
True.
that's
Yeah. Well, thanks for what you're doing.